having a sense of purpose, like really understanding like what are we trying to achieve, being able to make people connect together, connect to the planet. Well, I can't do that in my four walls of a clinic. It's got to be outside. It needs to be a destination, a venue, something that will bring people together and be a real draw. This is what I should be doing, is making these waves. And it just blew my mind. It's like, so I could actually create this place for people to surf inland. That is bonkers. Actually, if you sow the seeds right at the beginning of doing right by people and planet whilst growing, you're not going to go wrong.
Welcome to Sports and Outdoor Mentors. In this episode, I chat with Nick Hounsfield, the founder and Chief Vision Officer for The Wave. We filmed this episode in a tent, so apologies for the background noise. The Wave is an amazing inland surfing destination that's been born from passion for technology, nature, and human health. I chat with Nick about life before The Wave, about his motivations for starting such an amazing project, and his struggles, and much, much more. But before we get into the episode, I have one favour to ask. Please hit the subscribe or follow button. This helps us to continue to elevate the content and bring you more insights from other amazing leaders from the sports and outdoor world. Thanks very much for your support, and I really hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did filming it. Thanks again, and see you soon. Nick, looking back over your career and life today, I mean, what are the defining parts of that life that mean that you're sitting here today? I mean, and I don't mean interviewing with me, but with what you're doing today.
Yeah, I guess kind of rolling back, back over the years, I would say from family, mainly my parents and particularly my dad, was a huge part of making me who I am. I was the only son with two sisters, and hugely close connection to my dad. And we did everything together, which was amazing. But he absolutely loved water sports like surfing, swimming, sailing, fishing, whatever it is. That was his go-to place, and I always joined with him. So that was a big part of my life since day one. And my dad was in healthcare as well, and that's where I went into. So he was an osteopath, and I trained to be an osteopath as well, because we actually had like really similar values in terms of we wanted to help people and make people feel better, and we've got a similar sense of humor where we're kind of trying to make people laugh and just constantly try to make people happy, I guess. And so there was always this sort of constant synergy between looking after people, trying to make sure they're okay and caring for them, but also this connection to outdoor space, particularly water. And so, that's why I'm here today, is like this combination that led me to the point whereby I wanted to combine my passions absolutely intimately to go, well, instead of me doing healthcare, because I went into healthcare, instead of me doing healthcare and then at the weekends try to get to the beach and all the rest of it, how could I fuse those two together so you can look after people, look after the planet, and have a fantastic time, just like a real exhilarating time. So that's the sort of real culmination of, I guess, me and my personality and where I've come from to how we've created this amazing place called The Wave, and what is The Wave. And I guess the real trigger point was when my dad died, actually, when I literally made a promise to him on his deathbed. I want to do something that is really impactful for the greatest number of people, and made a kind of crazy promise to him that I'd do something at scale. And yeah, that's where we are today, sat here. And this is, I guess, the output from that dream.
Wow, that's amazing. Is it somehow, when you're here, mixed emotions? Because I guess maybe it brings you back to your dad, and obviously, that promise was, I'm sure, a difficult time. Mm. So yeah, is it somehow emotional? And do you think a lot about your dad when you're here?
No, I don't, except I would, because that happened, Dad passed away, and he never even knew that anything like this would ever happen. So I just know that he'd be proud of it, and he would absolutely he probably would be hanging out here the whole time, probably would try and get a job somewhere delivering it. but I just know that he'd be proud of it, and it's something that that in the background, in quieter moments, I could just like, okay, yeah, he would absolutely love this. But actually, this is more than just legacy to him. That's actually something that I feel we need, like society needs, places like this where you can have cool conversations with great people and bring sort of sections of community that have probably been quite siloed and actually bring them together. And how can we do that in a fun, exciting, positive way, and take some of the fear that's out there around the future and actually go, well, let's bring some hope together. And particularly today, we've got the Blue Earth Summit going on today, which is about bringing hearts and minds together and try to find out like solutions, real practical solutions about sort of climate crisis and what we're doing with the oceans and that connectedness. This is the perfect place for us to be delivering it. Yeah.
Where did your dad's passion for water come from then? Because you weren't living near the water back in those days, or were you?
No, but my parents, my grandparents, so they lived down by the coast, down in the south coast, and so they spent loads and loads of time there, and historically a lot of our family have been either from South Wales or down in Cornwall area, so that connection to being in that sort of coastal community or coastal environment or close to it has always been there. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And so you were an osteopath for how long? For
about 18 years.
So obviously that's a big chunk of your life and a big chunk of your professional life.
Yeah.
What was the catalyst for making you decide, okay, right, I want to do something different, and not just like a little different, pretty dramatically different on many levels?
Yeah, well, I think again, there was the moment with when my dad died, but it was more than that. Then after that, just knowing that something had to change, something had to shift. There's a real realization that my dad had been working like crazy for 45, 50 years, and it was all about like getting to retirement. So he like put loads into everybody else, and he was just about on the cusp of retiring and being able to do something for himself, the stuff that he wanted to do with my mum, and then obviously sadly died, and that was a real realization about you can do so much for everybody else, and you just get this short window of your lifespan to have fun yourself. I was like, that just doesn't feel right. It's like, actually, how I couldn't imagine what was scary is I could imagine myself doing exactly the same thing, and obviously in so many ways we were very similar. It's like, actually, I need to change that narrative. I actually need to have fun doing what I'm doing and doing good by people, doing good by planet, and equally having fun along the way. Pulling together the real passions of my life and going almost to the point where it doesn't feel like work anymore. It's actually just a continuation of myself. It's like expressing my views and my hopes for the future through my work is what I'm about, really, and trying to hold on to those principles going forwards.
Why a man-made inland wave? Because you said you love water, and there are hundreds, millions probably of things you could have done. Yeah, and this doesn't seem like the easiest, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's probably the hardest thing to have chosen to do, something that's never been done before, and unproven technology. Having to raise £30 million and off vapor, it was just an amazing idea and dream, and just trying to then pull together sort of various tendrils to make it a vision that can be delivered and be invested. It was a real challenge. But I guess ultimately it goes back to like having a true sense of purpose, like really understanding like what are we trying to achieve. It's like, well, this is about making people happy, making people healthy, being able to make people connect together and also connect to the planet and around. So it was about, I was like, well, I can't do that in my four walls of a clinic. It needs to be like out there. It's got to be outside. It feels like it needs to be a destination, a venue, something that will bring people together and be a real draw. I did take quite a lot of ideas from the Eden Project. So I spoke to Tim Smith, who's the founder of the Eden Project, right at the beginning, because I just really was interested about creating a sort of bonkers space and a place in this sort of old quarry down in Cornwall, and building this amazing dome structure and this whole education sort of visitor destination, and it was like incredibly successful. I was like, well, it's that kind of thing. It's like almost wanting to do an Eden Project in Bristol, but for me it just was lacking water. It didn't have that connection to water that I would love to see. So I was thinking, well, I need to kind of maybe make a lake or try and find some river frontage that there's some kind of connection. And then I was just on YouTube one day, and because I've been surfing for like 46 years now, so I consume quite a lot of surfing media, and just suddenly happened upon it one day, this brand new video that was released that day of like a perfect lake, and then suddenly these waves just rose out of it, and I was like, oh, that's amazing. Immediately I was like, this is what I should be doing, is making these waves. And then the last final clip was somebody surfing the wave, and that just blew my mind. I was like, so I could actually create this place for people to surf inland. That is bonkers, like that. And that was absolute eureka moment. That was the moment where I go like, right, embed that into this beautiful space and get that connectivity to, open space and green, and create blue health, this amazing blue space where people can, get healthy and happy again. And then that just created that was the North Star that I just went, right, I will not stop until I do it. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And it's good that you decided to not stop, because it was quite a long journey, I guess, from that point to actually probably the first day that somebody rode a wave here. So Can you maybe share a little bit? Obviously it's a very long story, but maybe the highlights and the lowlights of that journey.
Yeah, I mean, it's it did take a long time, just over 10 years. So I guess the main things that was about, first of all, starting to collate that very almost the vision and what the space and the place could look like, could feel like, the kind of people that will come there, start to pull together how that would look on a more practical basis, as well as just a vision, so to speak, and start to put some color around what that could look like as a business, what it could look like in terms of pulling together communities. And then I think the smart thing that we did right at the beginning was literally paint the picture. Like, this is roughly what it'll look like. And before telling anybody where it might be, we just sort of threw out there through amazing PR team that we're working with, say, let's just throw out the vision. Before anybody can say, oh, not in this place, not in that place, do people want it? Is this something that people would want? So we did that, and the response was overwhelming. They're like, oh my God. I was like, oh, if you do that in Bristol, it'll just be perfect. And so we're like, okay, so there's a real appetite for this. Now we need to start finding the land. And we had sort of 2 or 3 failed land attempts until we found this amazing space. And then we had to then convince the council that, I mean, this is greenfield space, so you should not be building in these kind of spaces, or very, very restricted in what you do. So we had to then convince the council, speak to the sort of main people in the corridors of power there, and go, right, this is why it's going to be a really great idea, really good for you guys, and get that buy-in. And then had to build a team. So 2 or 3 people came on board at that stage to sort of help me, because I knew nothing about anything like this. So it was about bringing in some wise heads into those discussions and the plans. And then was the massive task of raising the funds for it. So we had to sort of raise £30 million. So an amazing guy, Craig, came on board, who's a much more sort of business acumen than I have. We started to put together that plan to raise the money. Took 2 or 3 years to be able to raise the money. We did probably over 200 Dragon's Den kind of pitches. everybody said it was a really, really good idea, but they weren't going to back number one. They'll come in and back number two, because we always had plans to do more than just one. So we've got this amazing black book of people who won't quite take the risk, but we did end up meeting an amazing guy and his team that made this place happen. So but that whole process was 10 years until we managed to get it built, and then we pushed the first waves properly in October 2019. And the first person wasn't a person who rode the wave; it was actually a swan. Okay. So we were commissioning the waves, and you'd be able to find it online. But we were commissioning the waves, and the waves were rolling before anybody was going to get into the water. And suddenly, two swans landed in the lake whilst the waves were going up and down. And one of them just was like going up and down the waves, just almost like it was trying to pick the perfect wave, and then suddenly turns the corner and rides straight into a barrel, just rides the wave all along the length of the ride. Wow. And we're just like, oh my God, like, how did that happen? Kept it on film, it was amazing. So the first that's why that particular wave is called Swanie's Left, because the first person or first animal was a swan. So it was an amazing journey, and obviously straight away went into pandemic, and that was suddenly had to close down right at the start, which definitely created some issues, both as a company and personal health issues. I had a big stroke around that time, but we're still here and we're thriving, and particularly a day like today with the summit that we've got today is just incredible. Going, okay, we're still breathing, and there's still a lot of hope there.
What kept you going through those? It sounds like some very difficult days, obviously from a personal health point of view, but also the challenges of getting the approval and getting the funding. I mean, what kept you going? Blind
optimism is naivety. Constant. The number of people I always said are 6 more weeks. Like it's going to happen in 6 more weeks. For some reason, six weeks. A number of times I said, I'm aiming to get something done in 6 weeks. It's like far away enough that it's not immediate, but not too far away that. The number of people I said, we'll do that. I reckon it'll take about 6 weeks to do. But it's blind naivety. I thought that you would be able to get planning permission on something like this in 6 weeks. I had no idea it was actually about 18 months, just because I just didn't know the system. But learned along the way. But I think in many ways that sort of naivety with that optimism is what you have to do as a founder, without a doubt. Because otherwise you will never do what you ever wanted to set out to do, which is probably what happens to 95%, if not 99% of society. Or secondly, you just make yourself super ill because you're so stressed because everything feels impossible. So I think you do have to have that sort of absolute optimism. You've got to have a very, very clear vision and an idea of what the output would be if you manage to succeed. Like, if we manage to do that, this will change people's lives. So why would we not persevere with it? Why would you not back it? Why would you not invest in it? It's like, do not be the person that says no to these kind of things. Be the yes person. Yeah. And
if you had to do it all again today, what would you do differently?
Well, we are doing it all over again today by projects that we're looking elsewhere, and one particularly in London that we're pushing ahead with. What I would be doing is exactly what I'm doing now, is having people around me who just know so much better. Who, before I didn't have any money, I didn't have a team around me who knew what they were doing as well. Whereas this time we're surrounded by a group of people who've seen this. We now are not selling vapor. We're not selling a nice CGI image. You can come here and see the smiles on people's faces, and so a huge head start for the next one. But what I would be doing differently is from a personal point of view, is probably more around looking after myself in that journey, because I think that's the bit that I probably didn't. It's freaking lonely being a founder of something, and yeah, I would be looking after myself better.
So and how would you do that? What's because it sounds like you're gonna you know. It's okay. It's not the same situation, but yeah. I'm sure it's going to be. Some days are going to be as challenging as it was before. So, what's your plan to
just play to my strengths? Really, like what I'm really good at is making relationships, bringing people together, having the emotional intelligence to be able to read a room, to be able to excite people and allow them to those great connections and relationships to happen. Without a doubt, that's sort of one of my superpowers. I guess sort of looking after the sort of culture, like the brand, trying to make sure that the way that we wanted to develop this business is held onto. And whilst lots of people would like to sort of imprint their mark on this as a business, it's making sure we were really staying true to our values. And for me, it's also not sweating the detail. So if I am not a detail person. I love much bigger, broader, visionary stuff and strategy stuff. And I had to do a whole load, like way too much of the detailed stuff because it was just me before. Whereas now I've got amazing people around me who love the detail. And I think that's it's just about playing to your strengths next time around. Yeah.
So it feels like then the people that you have around you are obviously key to being able to do what you're doing. But when you started out, you said, it was just you, and then you added, I think, 2 or 3 people, you said. But I'm assuming, based on your previous experience as an osteopath, you'd never been hiring people.
No.
So how did you know that you were hiring those right people, and what did you learn through that process of bringing people on board?
That's a really great question. I guess the skills that I had as an osteopath is where you're treating somebody for 40 minutes and that you're meeting somebody for the absolute first time. You're suddenly sat in front like I am to you, and you're trying to encourage them to tell them everything. Like, obviously starts with the physical, like I've got a sore shoulder or back or what have you, but very quickly you need to start getting under the skin of actually who they are as humans and what's their driver for wanting to get better, but also how they got ill, because a lot of those illnesses are because there's a lack of connection either to their body, to their mind, to people, to they're not exercising enough, all those kind of things. So very, very quickly you've kind of got to do a bit of detective work to work out like where's the interface that I can talk to you as another human, retain that sort of professional demeanor, but also need to kind of get quite deep in to understand the motivations of somebody wanting to get better. And actually that's just the same in business. It's about, most of my team will know I'm normally a bit of an introvert, and I normally just sit at the back of the room and just observe, and looking at body language and like what the words that people say, and you can very, very quickly sniff out something that doesn't quite make sense. So I think that's the thing that I probably brought from my old life into the new life. And I can still make mistakes. So, without a doubt, I've worked with people and, other people that we've had business relationships with that hasn't, I got it wrong. And that's fine as long as you learn. Just next time, just hire carefully. And it's all about trust, particularly in business, is like trying to work out those trust barriers. I try wherever possible to be as trustworthy person as I possibly can be really open. But there's a bit of me where I ask for that back from that person, is that two-way trusting relationship. And I'm probably the first person who very quickly is like, if that trust is broken, it's really hard anyway for me to get that back. So, it's trust in business and trust in trying to deliver something like this is paramount. Yeah.
I'm sure. And when you were making those decisions around those early hires, and I guess it's the same today, are you focused on, or what are you more focused on? Is it the skills that you're looking for? Because you clearly have been able to identify, okay, this is my strengths and I need somebody to help me on, B, C, and D.
Yeah.
But how do you weigh that search for those skills up with finding people with the right mindset and authenticity to kind of connect with actually your vision, which I guess, especially at early days, is really important?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's mainly anybody who just really want to give it a go. I mean, particularly in those early stages, like being surrounded by 4 or 5 people, and they're going like, let's just give it a go. I'm going to put some time, I'm going to put some money, I'm going to whatever. I'm going to commit to this to make it happen. So I think that can-do attitude is imperative. Is just wanting to crack on and get something done. I think a lot of skills can be just developed. So personally, I've had to go and do lots of development stuff to just try and understand actually where are my major strengths and where are the bits where I really shouldn't be sweating the detail on, and then the bits where there's gaps, go like, right, we need to go and find somebody who is who can deliver put together a business model, for instance, to go right, who's that person that would do that? There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that could put together a business model, but we want somebody who also is really bought into the vision of why we want to do that. And I think the core thing for us right at the beginning, so I was working with this amazing guy called Chris Hines, who set up Surfers Against Sewage and was head of sustainability at the Eden Project. And actually the first thing we did was almost like set out a way in which we would be working and the sort of the vision of how we would be as a business. So making sure that all of our decisions as a business is looking at the triple bottom line. So making sure that we're balancing people, profit, and planet together. And once you've got a clear lens by which your main decisions are being made, we can then all hold ourselves to account for the decisions that we make. So if somebody is doing something that is, could be the most amazing environmental initiative, but actually it's going to cost us an arm and a leg, and because it's costing an arm and a leg, we need to make 2 people redundant. That's a rubbish decision. So it's like, and equally, if somebody is going to, make a business decision which is going to cost us the earth, literally cost us the earth, that's a bad decision. So then once we've got that framework set out really, really early stage, then we've got something to have a conversation about. It's like, well, have we definitely gone through that triple bottom line lens? Like, have we properly thought about this through that business lens? And then we can keep ourselves accountable through that. So I think having a clear vision, having somebody who's got that can-do, yes attitude, and having a very, very clear benchmark about how we should be as a business, hopefully is setting ourselves up for being a future-facing business. Yeah.
Just in case doing all of that wasn't enough for you, you're also chairman for GB Surfing?
Surfing England, yeah.
Surfing England,
chair
sorry.
of Surfing England, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So I'm sure on a normal day, that already brings itself a lot of responsibility and work. And also now, if I understand well, surfing will now be part of the Olympics as well going forward.
Surfing's in the Olympics, was in the last one, and hopefully parasurfing is going to be in the Olympics very, very soon as well. So yeah, it's like it properly stepping up a level.
So how do you find that balance between everything that you're doing here, chairman of Surfing England, and everyday life, let's say, personal life outside? How do you find that balance, and is there anything that you say to yourself, especially as you were very open about, you've suffered some fairly major medical situations that are also that balance is right for you?
I don't get it right. That's probably why I had a stroke. Totally fine in any other aspect of my life, apart from probably around that time I was under a huge amount of stress. I was probably doing too much. There were some trust issues that were breaking down as well. So real bombardment of stuff coming at me. And my stroke consultant, the neurologist, said, look, sometimes it's just, they have no idea why. But sometimes it just happens in younger people who just are under too much stress. So that's a huge amount of reflection and perspective from doing something like that. It's like I want to still be alive to see my kids into adulthood and all the rest of it. So there's a real realization, but I still haven't got it right. I would say probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, I had like another like really, really bad time, like properly bad time. I was just too overwhelmed, and almost felt like I was having a breakdown. It's like, I'm back in this place again. It's like, what am I doing? So yeah, thankfully then recognizing it a little bit earlier to go, okay, just need like breathe, step back. It's like, right, I need to get back in control of what I can get back in control with. And actually just then made a few life decisions that would shed some of that responsibility and say, I'm just being really open to people and say, actually, last week was really bad and I'm worried I'm going that way again. Can I change the way I work now to be able to make sure that I'm looking after myself? So the reality is I still don't get it right. Thankfully, I'm recognizing the early signs of it better. But it's I would imagine it's going to be a constant cycle because I want to get involved in anything that's good. I want to get involved in and be part of it and try and add value to it. But I just I need to realize that I need to have a limit of my own internal resource. But I haven't got it right. But it's recognizing the signs slowly, recognizing the signs as to where you're starting to. Your edges are starting to get a bit frayed. Be very, very careful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would imagine that being here and probably hopefully being able to use your own facilities can really help that as well.
Yeah, it's making sure that I'm getting time to do that as well. Thankfully, I'm going to be surfing in a couple of hours' time, which would be great, with some amazing humans. But the whole irony of creating something that should be allowing people to decompress and relax and fulfill themselves with everything, like nourish themselves with something that is really positive. Sometimes I don't make time for that myself, and I've got no excuse not to. I can pretty much go surfing whenever I want to, but equally I'll probably do it once a month at the moment and going and when everything's like really, really right, when I'm properly in the flow of work and everything, my best times is because I'm actually surfing regularly. I'm making sure I've got time to jump in the water or join in the staff surfs or something like that, and that balance is right. But weirdly, when I'm getting more and more bogged down into the detail, I forget about the fact that I'm walking past this beautiful man-made perfect waves every single day, sweating the detail and all the rest of it, and don't actually almost lift up my eyes and see the horizon around me and go, oh, actually, I should be getting in the water today. I've got no reason not to. So, yeah, and that's something that I need to constantly remind myself of.
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, I'm the same. I'm terrible. It's only until something bad happens that it forces me to. I need to spend 30 minutes on my bike every morning before I go to work. And actually, I realized maybe a year ago that for me anyway, it's the mental benefit of that is actually far greater than the physical for 100%.
Me. 100%.
Which, I mean, it sounds stupid saying it now, but at the time that was a massive realization. I think initially I was really doing it much more from a physical perspective and to lose weight, the usual reasons we do. But then I realized that for me anyway, in doing it, I'm mentally stronger and able to then handle everything else so much better and make better decisions. But it's not easy. I can absolutely empathize, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And And in your role then with Surfing England, what does that consist of? And is that something that you do have to invest a lot of time in?
Well, I'm pretty lucky that I've got really good board members around me who can be as proactive as they can, because we're all there on voluntary basis. So, we don't have a huge amount of time to be able to give, but we do what we can do, and particularly at the poignant times. And luckily we have got, although it's a small team, we've got an amazing CEO, Ben Powis, and a whole team around him are just proper. They're real workhorses, but equally they're there for the right reason, and therefore their passion for surfing and how there's a whole movement. They're right at the beginning of something really incredible. That just feeds that enthusiasm. So we're actually really lucky because it's quite a small team. It definitely delivers over and above what it should be delivering in terms of amazing events and looking after the membership and all the rest of it. And it's definitely going places. But I think it's more that organisation is small but really, really tight and well run, that actually the amount that we need to input in it can remain relatively strategic. We try and support wherever we can do. But they're right on the cusp of great opportunity for growth. But obviously with growth can come the various challenges of suddenly going, if they're soon to be funded really decent amount of money, just be very careful to not suddenly grow too quickly, because everybody in business knows the challenges on trying to scale anything up or grow a business is it's much better to just do it steadily rather than trying to do moonshot straight away and burn yourselves out. But we've got that's the beauty of having decent board members, where you can give that sort of sage advice. It's you might potentially in the next year or so get some amazing funding, which would mean that you could do almost anything, but actually just stay tight. So it's let's just grow it steadily and make sure it's sustainable as a business as well. So that is about actually just an amazing organization with an amazing core team, executive team doing it, and the rest of us are just sort of there and putting in the various balances and checks in place.
Okay. And on your journey, that 10-year journey with the Wave here, did you have any support of any mentors or coaches or somebody that was kind of helping you along that journey? Yeah,
I did. So without doubt, this guy, Chris Hines, has always been there since the start. And he's great. He's a very, very dear friend. He would say himself that he's the person that will prod the bits that you don't want prodding. So he will absolutely hold you to account on stuff. So if you've made a promise to do something, he will badger you until you've done that, and which is right, holding people to account both for their actions or their lack of action in certain areas, and that's great. That's really good, and he doesn't mind being that sort of at times needing to bring that abrasion to sort of go, right, why has this not been done, or Nick, why have you not done this yet? So that's brilliant, and fundamentally we love each other, and we have so much fun together, and obviously he surfs, which helps. And then I would say that there was probably a gap of about 5 years where I definitely needed peer support, mentor groups. I did try and find them, and they just weren't quite right for me. And then more recently, just over the last six months, I found somebody who's just been incredible, he's sort of an amazing guy called David Hyatt, and he's pulled together sort of 4 or 5 founders. I found him, I've known about him for years, but he pulled together this group partly through LinkedIn and partly some of his friends. Actually, it's a group of sort of 5 of us who then properly once a month just spitball what's going on in people's lives, and then if there's a bit of an emergency, a relative emergency like I had 3 weeks ago, so they're like, right, let's check in every single week until you feel like you're out of the woods again. And that was just amazing, because I just, again, having a support of people from very different backgrounds, but there's common themes in all business, particularly for founders. But then that holding to account is like, right, Nick, what are you going to be doing this week to make sure that you're making a difference so that we don't see you feeling like this next week? I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And then I get to Wednesday, it's like, oh, God, I haven't done any of those things yet. Right, I need to bite the bullet. And then like that Wednesday was like, I am going to do all those things because I don't want to look like a muppet in front of my friends saying, or my mentor saying, I've not done it. And that's great. That's what you need to have, is just people holding to yourself to account, but in a supportive manner rather than sort of a challenging manner. So yeah, and that's my main probably takeaway at the moment is about just find those peer support groups. So if you're a founder, find other founders, because there is a real loneliness as being a founder, without a doubt. But if you're not a founder and you're somebody who's working in a particular industry, it's like find other people within your industry, but also outside the industry, who can also just help you evolve and think about things differently and come up with different solutions, so that you're not on some kind of treadmill of doing the same thing as you've always done. It needs that sort of check and challenge, really.
This is a really good reality check for me. This is going to be very useful, I can tell. Something I wanted to pick up on something you said earlier on. You talked about that the three, I don't remember how you worded it, but you talked about the people, planet and profit.
Yeah.
Is that something that I mean, this is going to sound a really weird question, because it seems very obvious that a balance there is important, but I've never really heard anybody kind of articulate it quite like that and so clearly. Mm-hmm. Was that something that was just very evident from you from the start, or it's something that you've developed over time?
So I think that kind of came out in the way that we ran a business as being an osteopath. I didn't know distinctly what it was. I didn't realize that there was a framework by which our practice was being really successful. But like reflecting back on it, it's like, well, that's why we were really successful, and my wife still runs that practice, and it's why it still continues to be really successful, is because it's fundamentally about just caring. That's all it is just like, you need to make sure that the balance sheet is balanced and that you can survive. But the reason why we want to survive is that we want to pay people good wages, and that's the right thing to do. It's just about doing the right thing. And in business, those are the three areas that you need to be doing the right thing by. It's like, as long as you're looking after the profits, then you can succeed as a business and reinvest in it. And if you're looking after the planet, that's the right thing to be doing as a business, to do no harm or minimal harm by the planet. And look after your people, look after your customers, look after your internal people. It's just the freaking right thing to do. So it's not rocket science, as you say, but equally it's just a framework by which you can just go those balance and checks in there. And it's the triple bottom line is what they call it. That was a phrase coined by an amazing guy called John Elkington. And weirdly, I met John for the first time this year, and weirdly I took him to come and see the Wave yesterday for the first time, which blew his mind. My mind was blown just by being able to spend some time with him, but equally was going, oh my God, this is just an incredible space. I said, yeah, but this is a reflection of the way that you've chosen to look at business and look at the world. I'm really inspired by you, and this is your inspiration. I've done it in a different way. You probably didn't think of putting a surf park in the middle of countryside and all the rest of it, but this is a reflection of your personality, and this is a stamp of approval for what you've achieved in business and the framework that you've developed across hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of businesses now. So it's a cool moment yesterday, just suddenly going, pulling that all together. Yeah.
Amazing. What's your favourite bit of sports or outdoor gear? I can probably imagine what it is, but let's see whether I'm right.
Favorite bits of outdoor gear?
Yeah, just whatever it is, equipment, clothing, whatever. What's the like your go-to bit if you're gonna surf or do any other activities?
Footwear is really big for me. Okay. Really big. I've always loved footwear. Ever since I was young, I absolutely idolized Nike trainers when I was like a teenager, like loads of people do again now. And nowadays, so I really was interested in the sort of connection of humans and the earth, and how that interface many times isn't quite right. So I started to find out about more like barefoot running and barefoot shoes and that kind of stuff, and stumbled across an amazing company, Vivo Barefoot, who and I pretty much solely wear, no pun intended. But I think it's really important that interface, that's what we're spending 99.9% of our time in contact with is our footbeds on the ground, and like that interface has been revered for so many centuries about what it is, but that form and function and being able to make sure that actually what you put on your feet has to be in harmony with the planet as well. I'm really, really interested around that, and they're just doing some pretty cool stuff called the Biome, which is like looking at 3D printing footwear in a really sustainable way. So actually you have sort of custom built footbeds that are not going to do any harm to the planet. I like anything like that. That real sort of biomimicry is just important, and the stuff I really love now, I think, in any apparel, particularly sport apparel, is where that biomimicry is coming through. Where you're going like how can we look at nature to create or cure problems in design? I love anything like that. Yeah.
Okay, great. That's a really good answer. Really good answer. So is there a book that you would recommend to anybody that wants to work in the sports or outdoor industry to maybe inspire them or guide them or educate them?
Yeah, 100%. My favorite is Let My People Go Surfing by Yvonne Chouinard, who's the founder of Patagonia. It was the first book that I read when I was sort of devising this sort of vision of the wave. Ironically, Chris Hines, who I've already spoken to, when I met him at a train station, he said, I've got this book that you need to read. And I said, I've got a book that you need to read. And both of us just pulled out the same book. And we did swap them. It's like, yeah, this is a great book. But it just, again, that principle of like looking after people, looking after planet, whilst making a business that needs to thrive and grow is really inspiring. And obviously he started like very humble beginning, and it's grown this into something that is not just an amazing company with an amazing brand, but also a real activist brand as well. I just love what they've done, what he's done, and it's really great to read that book just because it just shows from humble beginnings just can do so much impact. So anybody in that sort of, particularly in that sports outdoor industry, being able to see that actually if you sow the seeds right at the beginning of doing right by people and planet whilst growing, you're not going to go wrong. You really can't go wrong. And it's normally when you get some kind of skew the wrong way in one of those three that it starts going wrong. So as long as you've just always got that balances and checks through that lens, then you're always going to make the right decision, because they're the decisions made through good judgment and probably good gut instinct. That's what you need to be good in business. Amazing.
Well, my last question was going to be, what bits of advice would you give to future leaders? But I think you've just nailed it with that. So I think we leave it there. And Nick, I really appreciate your time. I think what you've achieved here is amazing. I was lucky enough to visit yesterday with your CEO, and she gave me a tour, and it's amazing. And I'm going to be looking forward to come back with my son, who's a massive surf fan.
Yeah, definitely.
I would be more underwater, I have to say, but so probably not the right place to come for that. But yeah, I would love to come back. And I'm sure, if you don't mind me saying, I'm sure that your dad would be incredibly proud of what you've done. It's amazing. So yeah, thank you very much. And it's been great chatting with you.
That's been great. Thank you.
Take care. I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I did. We love to read your feedback, so please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks again for your support. See you soon, and don't forget to subscribe.